And hello, everyone. Welcome to Chiefs Live. Mitch Holthus with you, along with the snapper, 15-year veteran of the National Football League, Kendall Gammon. This week, the Chiefs go to Tampa to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But let's flip back to a Sunday where Kansas City had it. It was there, Kendall. It was there. A 9-6 loss to the Baltimore Ravens. The Chiefs hold Baltimore to 9 points, a team that was averaging 30 points. And a historic first half running the ball against a good Ravens defense.
Well, it was a historic first half because with their 179 yards in that first half against the Ravens, that's all time. Number one since the Ravens moved there from Baltimore. So offensive line doing some good things and really getting into it. But you can't say enough about how the defense have played, and we're going to talk about that also. But before we get into some of those things, one thing I have to interrupt you with, it's been the year of Mitch a little bit with the shows. I have to ask you, first of all, number one, congratulate you on your 300th game announcing with the Chiefs. Talk about that. You were honored. I mean, I see you right now, but I mean, the cameras come up to you. Just can you put it into words?
Well, first of all, Rob Alberino, the Vice President for Media and Marketing, is the first culprit here. The second is Spartacus, Dan Israel, the executive producer of the Chiefs Fox Football Radio Network. Now, let's just be honest here. Those two, at what they do, are the best in the National Football League. Bar none. They're incredible. They are here with the Kansas City Chiefs. They are Lombardi Trophy caliber people. They put together. But when you start putting up fourth grade Little League football pictures,
that's not really fair, is it? It's not fair.
Not fair. And then back in high school, your glands, there's volleyballs that go in the glands of your throat. And I was wearing my 16 jersey in fourth grade because while I'm watching the
wait a minute, wasn't there somebody that was number 16 a while back?
Okay, so I'm watching Lenny play. Then I go out and try to reenact it on the farm in Smith County, Kansas. And then you're standing next to the guy, and you've been doing games with him for 300 games. It was kind of the moment. But, yeah, and the reaction of the fans was great. So thank you to you, to Spartacus, to all the folks at 65 TPT, to the Italian Stallion, Rob Alberino, and all the folks at the Chiefs Fox Football Radio Network. Let's go to 300 more, but let's hope somewhere in the next 300 there's playoff victories and time to celebrate in the postseason. I would trade 100 of those games in for playoff wins and a shot at the big one. You've played in that game. I haven't sniffed that game, buddy. I've not sniffed that game, but I want to sniff it.
Well, and I want it so bad for Chiefs fans because having played in 2 AFC Championship games, 1 Super Bowl, it is something that's special and certainly what you're striving to do here as the Chiefs organization. So that continues, though, this week with Tampa Bay. But, you go back, we talked about a lot of good things that the Chiefs did against Baltimore. We talked about the rushing yards in the first half, defensively how they did it. Just, they get down a little bit on some turnovers and they hold them to 3 points, not letting them score a touchdown when arguably Baltimore is the best team in the AFC. You said it last week, and I think they still are, quite honestly. But the Chiefs showed that they've got some things they can do as well. You see right there. You talked about this, Flowers, maybe the best pick you've seen since you've seen him come here.
Yep, that's a big-time pick. That's a Darrelle Revis pick. When you watch the way he played it and broke on the ball, against a big-time receiver in Anquan Boldin, that's a big-time play. And then 2 plays later, the Chiefs give it right back. And we'll get to that later, too. That's got to go away. But there was something to build on in this game.
There was.
The fact that you run the ball that way in the first half against a good Ravens defense, and the fact that you defend a team averaging 30 points a game. We mentioned it last week on the show. They can attack you at all 3 levels. The Chiefs defended this team at all 3 levels. They got pressure, but they had coverage. They didn't forfeit coverage to get pressure.
You're exactly right. We're going to go to the defense in a second, but I'm start with you talk about in terms of the offensive side of the ball and how they ran it. And I likened it to a slinky, and the slinky's right there. It's really short, but as you pull it apart, there becomes space between things. And that's what I thought the offensive line did a great job of. They got their fits on people. They had combination blocks on people, and they got to the sideline as far as getting the backs up there, but they were able to get rather to the second level. So to me, the offensive line, you have to give them kudos for how they handled themselves in the run game.
Still, it's a loss, and no one is satisfied with the loss. Losing 9-6 in a game the Chiefs really should have won. Let's go to the key moments in the game. Turnovers were the crux of the matter in the loss to the Ravens, but there were some critical moments in this game which decided it. This is one right here. 1st and goal, a quarterback sneak, fumbled. This is when I think I've seen it all, and here comes Ed Reed out of the end zone. Not only are they get it out to the 13-yard line, the Chiefs could have taken a 10-3 lead here early in the third quarter. It would have been huge. Instead, a center to quarterback exchange gets fumbled.
Well, utter and complete shock. It just can't happen. And you know what? Ryan Lilja, Matt Castle, they know that. Everybody knows that. You don't try to make those things happen. I think they were trying to catch Baltimore a little bit off guard because they'd almost got in. They got up to the line of scrimmage, tried to get a quick sneak because I think they'd done it a little bit earlier as well to get a first down. But down there, ball possession, so very important. And of course, you take 7 points off the board when you had a chance to finally have play with a lead, rather, which would have been huge. And
there's a play right there as we see it. He doesn't get it cleanly. Lil just kind of jumped on the sword here, but there's culpability all the way down the line. But this is where a team's kind of fighting. When you're 19 giveaways, you start to fight it a little bit, but maybe the mentality's starting to change a little bit with this team on hanging on to the ball. They got a chance to make a run, but they must hang on to the ball. We opened the radio broadcast with the thesis that the Chiefs have to be even today in the giveaway takeaway. At minus 15, it's been 43 years since the NFL has had a team that's been this bad in the giveaway takeaway. You got to switch it. This play's gigantic because look, it's 6-3 Baltimore. This gives a short field to Kansas City. We mentioned that pick is as good as you'll see in the NFL against a good Baltimore team and a good Baltimore quarterback. Then 2 plays later, the ball goes right back to the Ravens on an interception.
Exactly, and just when you've got the ball rolling a little bit, you've got the crowd pumped up and into it. And again, the Kansas City Chiefs fans are great. They did a great job in terms of getting loud down there. It was a jet engine. I mean, there was a roar. It made a difference. But when you've got a chance to get things going, you see the tip right there for the interception. That's part of it. It happens, but you hope that those things can stop happening. At some point in time, those tips have to go our way. But they talked about it all week, ball possession. You talked about it last week in terms of you wanted to play Green Bay. You wanted to do that. You wanted to hold on to the ball longer than Baltimore did. You wanted to sack the QB.
And you wanted
exactly.
It was all there.
Everything with the exception of turning the ball over. You had 4 sacks. We'll talk about this later in terms of Houston and Hawley. They're becoming a force. They're doing what we thought they could do. And they ran the ball. I mean, it was very evident, in my opinion, that you were running some plays where you're like, stick your foot in the ground and make a play and get upfield. And as we see right there, Matt Castle getting knocked out of the game, that was an issue. But again, they did good things.
So let's go. Castle gets knocked out of the game. Haloti Ngata is involved in the play, and we all know he's an animal. Might be the best defensive lineman in this league. So Brady Quinn comes in. Now, this is a tough throw. This is on 3rd down, and he hits the deep middle throw to Bo. This is a heck of a play by Quinn. And here comes a critical play. The Chiefs think they've got the touchdown to take the lead. Look at the score. It'd be 10-9 at 5:17 to go in the game. An offensive pass interference called against the Chiefs. Look at the pick. Now, this happens every week in the NFL, but that's a pick. They had just called OPI a series or so before.
You know what? It is a pick. But it happens every week in the NFL. I guarantee you it could have been happening in another game at that very same point in time. Sometimes you get officials that, quite honestly, that's their pet peeve. That's what they look for. In my mind, that's what that official was looking for. He called 2 of them, and I believe it was the same official. So it's something, it's part of the game. You have to kind of be an actor and get in the way. But when you're running towards the ball and you're making a play for it, then you can pick people. But you've got to be a good actor with that. But that would have been so huge. But they get the field goal. But again, field goals don't win the games all the time. They do it in New Orleans, but not this week.
Let's go to the pick thing and go back at it. If you see a Wes Welker do this, I mean, they do it all the time, but like a pivot route, you've got to get your head turned.
Right.
If Dex right here just runs a pivot, like plants his foot in the ground and pivots and blocks the guy,
certainly,
it's almost a legal pick that they won't call. It's still offensive pass interference, but if the head gets turned, if he pivots right here and turns and hits Jimmy Smith, they're not going to call it, I don't think.
You're exactly right, and that's the thing. You have to be somewhat of an actor. You talk about it, well, is it against the rules? You know, it's against the rules if it gets called, but quite honestly, it happens all the time. We talked about it. You know, it's attention to details. You've got to, you know, I venture to say that Dexter will never do it like that again. He'll be probably turning around, and he'll be a better actor for it. But again, it doesn't bring the touchdown back.
I look for the team to play well this week against Tampa Bay. Now, the reaction in the locker room, there's something to build on with this game. But don't get any of us wrong, there's no satisfaction in losing. As you look here in the recap, going down the line, no one expected the game to be this way. Everybody thought the Ravens would roll. The Chiefs And there you go. It's going right down the line. You sack Flacco 4 times, 34 minutes, the 4 turnovers get circled here, or it would have been a replication of the Green Bay game.
Well, you're exactly right, and you see those stats as well. But something I want to bring up is the special teams side of the ball in terms of what they did. Week to week, you're going to have ebbs and flows. Your offense and your defense are going to be up or down a little bit. But the one thing that you want to be a constant is your special teams. The last 3 games, Dustin Colquitt, he has been killing it. He has had 10 punts inside the 20-yard line. I'm telling you right now, when the opponent's defense for the Chiefs comes out there, or rather the offense, they need binoculars to see the end zone because he's pinning them down deep, and he's got almost a 47 net in the last 3 games as well. That's huge. He gave up the 1 return, but otherwise, and as you see right there, special teams captain Terrence Copper forces a fumble. You've got a chance to get some things going as well, and of course, they don't make amends with that one either, but they did some good things. Copper also had a nice return in terms of a heads-up play when Baltimore touches the ball on a punt return. And for those of you who don't know this, in terms of when the ball's punted and if the team covering it touches it but they don't down it, now the returning team can go after it. They can try the Music City Miracle. They can do whatever they want and try to do it. But as you see here, again, getting back to that, Copper doing a great job pulling the ball out. And then right there, I think Jones getting on it. Seiler comes in there as well. That was a huge play, a great way to start out the second half.
Yep, they'll have to do again this week against Roscoe Parrish of Tampa Bay, one of the better returners in the league. But Colquitt has been outstanding. Don't forget what he did to contribute to the New Orleans victory. Now he's done it 3 weeks in a row. But reaction in the locker room, no satisfaction with playing the Ravens close and losing. But also in that locker room, you could sense that maybe there was some confidence picked up in the game against Baltimore.
It was a street fight kind of game. Low-scoring game, but as a defensive player, that's how we like it. And defensively, we came up short at the end, and we just have to get off the field. You know, I'm a defensive person, so I'm looking on we have to stop them in the crucial time 3 or 4 minutes ago, and we came up short at the end. Couldn't hold them. Keeping everybody's heads up. This wasn't a 40-10 game. This is a close game against a really good team, against a playoff team. And we held our own today, came up a little short. But we got a young team, and if we can fight like this every Sunday, we'll win our share.
I mean, we made mistakes, here and there. I mean, it didn't turn out the way that we wanted, but at the same time, we did an okay job, but, it's still a lot to get corrected.
We just got to, continue to pay attention to detail. That's the thing in this league, detail. So, look at the ball in and hold on to the ball. So we have to do some things better, and hopefully next week we get that done.
Honestly, I think the offense really fought. The running game was amazing. Linemen blocked the ball and the running backs ran hard. It just comes down to, a play here and a play there that really took us out. But defense really gave us a chance to win today.
I mean, it's just part of the job. Obviously it's different, considering you don't get to practice as much. You're not physically as prepared, but I try to keep myself as mentally prepared as possible. And doing as much extra stuff as I can, whether it's at the facility or at home, to prepare myself for that moment. No, look, it felt great to be out there. I feel comfortable at home, being on the field. But right now, I'm just here to support my teammates. Matt's our starter, and I just prepare every week like I am a starter, and I prepare myself for that moment.
Brady Quinn did a good job coming in for the injured Matt Castle. Now, we've got to deal with an issue which has been a hot topic in the Chiefs kingdom for the last 48 to 72 hours. Matt Castle goes down with a head injury. Terrific guy. Eric Winston reacts in the locker room after the game on Sunday. Came back Monday with a bit of a retraction. Your thought on this issue? We've got to deal with it, and then we're going to move on. But anyone to boo an injured player is inexcusable in any sport. Inexcusable in any of the 32 stadia in the National Football League. I'm going to get your reaction, and then I'll give mine.
Well, the reaction to me is you've got a guy who just played a game. He hasn't had a chance to turn the switch off. He is the best teammate there is. I mean, he is 100% in, and he's always on it. And he's emotional. And you come out of that game, and you see a guy go down like that, your teammate, your quarterback, you don't like that. Were there a smattering of what he said? Yeah, probably so. I think you talked about it a little bit. I think the message that he gave was a good message, maybe delivered the wrong way. To me, he doesn't have enough of a sample size of games played here to know what the Chiefs fans are like, because they are classy individuals. I felt like, unfortunately, there may have been a few people that were happy about what happened, and that's not right, and it should be addressed. But I think more importantly is, as Castle got off the field, you had the polite applause like you do for injured players, and then you had excitement for Brady coming in. Three distinct things, in my opinion, for what was going on. I think to generalize...
And the pass play went for 15 yards
right,
on the screen.
So. Exactly. To generalize about Chiefs fans, who are the greatest fans in the NFL, is just a little bit too much. Again, I like the message. I like how he is as a teammate, sticking up for him. I just think it was maybe delivered a little bit harshly.
Here's my opinion. Eric Winston was right in what he said. He was wrong in what he said, in kind of how he delivered it. Because what bothers me is the way the Kansas City fans were trashed by the national media, basically, over the last 48 hours. Kansas City is 13th in the National Football League in attendance. They have averaged 65 to 70,000 fans now. And let's be honest here. There have been 12 home wins since the middle of 2007.
Right.
All right? I see the fans on Monday night come out to the Kingdom Show. No less than 100 fans at that show every week. There were 60-some thousand fans in this game, okay? They said there's some no-shows. There is passion among these fans. These are some of the best fans in the National Football League. There was a fringe element that did what they did wrong. Now, I would also venture to say, not making it right, but you would see it in 31 other stadiums in this league considering the circumstances. That does not make it right. However, I'm going to get on a soapbox and tell you that this fan base is amazing. We live for the day when this thing turns, and so do those fans. But it hasn't been that they've gone away. They average more fans here than the Pittsburgh Steelers, almost as many as the Green Bay Packers and New England Patriots. That to me is amazing because there hasn't been a lot for them to just grab onto and go with. So there's my soapbox in it.
Right. Well, to me, here's a story that encapsulates what Chiefs fans are. I remember back when I was playing at camp and talking to some people after practice, and they were like, you know what, we're excited, we just got our season tickets. The times were a little bit tough, and we decided, you know what, do we go on vacation this year or do we get season tickets to the Chiefs? Their choice was season tickets to the Chiefs. To me, that's huge. That's the type of fan base that you've got with Kansas City, loyal to the end. And you know what? I cannot say enough good things about the Chiefs fans. It goes without saying. And to lump them in with some of the things that the national media said is just quite honestly inexcusable.
Inexcusable. All right, let's move on. But first, let's go to Eric Winston. Yesterday in the locker room, he makes a bit of a retraction here because he kind of gets to your point of saying, hey, I wanted to say what I said, but I might have just chosen some words wrong in the heat of the moment.
Have you had a change of heart about anything you said yesterday?
No, I haven't. I mean, I meant what I said. I didn't say it I guess, just off the cuff, or I did say it off the cuff, but I didn't, I look back on it and I'm happy with what I said. I guess the only thing that I didn't clarify, when I was saying it, I didn't mean, I guess all 70,000 were cheering. It might have been 7,000, might have been 700. Still too many. And I guess that's more so. Of anything I said, I guess that's the one thing that might have gotten misconstrued. I think reading my own statements, I felt like I clarified it within the statements. But if it's not, then that's, I think, more so than anything, that was the one thing. Just looking back on it, that I wanted to make sure people know that I didn't think it was the whole stadium. I don't even think it was a mass majority of the people. But like I said, whether it was 7,000 or 700, it's still too many.
I think a lot of the fans were mad about is they seem to think you painted all 70,000 with the same brush.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I read the statement again. I read it last night, and I felt like I clarified it pretty good. I felt like that was made clear, but maybe if it wasn't, then that wasn't my intention to paint everybody with a brush. I was directing obviously those comments to the few people. When I say few people, I do mean few people, because I don't think it was the majority of the people, nor do I think it was anywhere close to a big minority.
Bright guy, he's a pro, and I appreciate him.
That's what I like about it.
Yeah,
that's what I like about it. He's like, okay, I understand what they're saying. He didn't take back what he's saying, but he's just like, if there was one person, it was too many. And I agree with that statement. It's just, as he said, to paint the brush that broadly was not what his intent was.
He played high school football in Midland, Texas. The passion of the fans here, very similar to that Midland, Odessa, Texas area. And Eric as he's here longer, we'll figure that out. But anyway, let's move on. Okay, the crux of the matter is this team goes to Tampa Bay, a chance to win a second game this season, try to go into the bye with some confidence and win a game. Well, let's deal with the turnover margin, because to me, that is just something that jumps off the page for this team to turn the season around, which I think they can. I think they can. The minus 15 in the giveaway takeaway is the second most now in 43 seasons in the National Football League since minus 17 of the Buffalo Bills in 1970. You cannot ignore that. But if this team starts to play error-free football, you're going to see this thing flip.
Well, you're right, and you talked about it. It is an epic stat right now, and you want to get that down. You've got to deal with it. You can't imagine that would continue, but that being said, you've got to continue to put the importance on holding on to the football. But you talk about that, and what those turnovers do is they lead to points, and the opponents have scored 67 points off of those turnovers, whereas the Chiefs have scored only 9. That's a differential of 58. That can't be that way. That's got to change for the Chiefs to ultimately be successful, because as you said, this last week in Baltimore, if they have one less turnover or even 2, they win the game. It's just that because they outplayed Baltimore. Let's be honest. In my opinion, they outplayed Baltimore on almost every facet of the game. And Baltimore's a good team. They have weapons, the Chiefs do, but they've got to be able to utilize them without dealing with setbacks.
It's the way I started the broadcast. That was my thesis during the, the monologue, if you will, to open the game, is that if you look in mid-December at the giveaway takeaway ratio in the National Football League, it is directly every year in correlation with the standings. The Chiefs this year have lost 10 fumbles so far in 5 games. The league average is 3. If you look at the consistent winning teams in this league, in the AFC, Baltimore is 3rd in the NFL in this statistic over a span now of 5 years, 6 years really. The New Englands, they're always going to be plus double digits in December for the most part. If you look in the 90s when Marty Schottenheimer was here, he put it, emblazoned it into the hard drive of everybody's God-given computer in their head that you're going to be plus in the giveaway takeaway. It becomes a mindset and a way of life. And I think the Chiefs aren't there yet, but I got a feeling they can get there. And you played on those Steelers teams, they were the same way. It's a matter of concentrating and saying, hey, we're going to move the ball here, but we are not going to turn it over.
Well, you're right, and you're starting to see the Chiefs defense in the last couple of weeks take the ball away a little bit more, and you harken back, or you bring back the old memories of when I was with the Steelers, and that's what they did. They held onto the ball, they ran the ball, they threw at opportune times, and they played defense. If you can do that, that's a recipe for winning. That's what the Chiefs need to get started this week in Tampa.
Well, not only all of you were watching the Chiefs play last week against the Ravens and listening, but so were the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They did not have a game last week. They've got a 1-3 start with the new head coach, Greg Schiano, who did a great job at Rutgers University, by the way, in turning them around. This Tampa Bay team, your thoughts on them going 1-3, trying to get their second win of the year?
You know what? I think this is a team in flux a little bit, trying to find themselves. Defensively, they're having a rough time. They're 32nd in the league stopping the pass. They're doing a good job of stopping the run. And how they play the run and that front seven, I like some of the things that they do. But when it comes down to it, you have to stop the pass. So it will be interesting this week, and we'll talk more of this. It'll be interesting to see whether they bring that 8th guy up into the box. Because what I like about the Chiefs this last week, they're playing a stout run defense in Baltimore also. But did they shy away? No, they didn't shy away because they went to their strength, which is run the ball. Well, this week, just because you've got a defense in Tampa Bay that it's good at stopping the run, that doesn't mean you abandon what you do well. Because when you establish the run, you make it easier for the QB to do some things, hit the balls over the top. As I look at their defense, from that 5-yard to 13-yard area on defense for Baltimore, or for Tampa Bay rather, that's an area that I think the Chiefs can take advantage of pass-wise.
I saw the offensive line when I watched the coaches tape, the Chiefs offensive line against Baltimore. You're saying, well, how can you gain confidence when you only get 6 points and you turn the ball over 4 times? I saw the offensive line get confidence because, to your point, Baltimore knew for the most part they're going to run the ball. But I saw Jeff Allen do some really good things. I saw Lilja do some good things at center. Asamoah had his best game of the year up to this point, and the tackle's doing a good job. So, again, people know you're going to run it, but we've seen time and time again in this league, the Houston Texans are a perfect example with Foster. They know Houston's going to run it. They just block you, and they still get positive yardage in the run game and may pop a big run.
Well, when you get 34 minutes, as you saw in that stat a little bit ago in terms of time of possession, you know you're holding on to the ball, you're running it effectively, no sacks, good things there. You talked about those interior guys in terms of how they blocked. And what I saw and what I alluded to earlier is they're getting on their men and they're stretching the defensive line laterally, which now gives time for the running backs rather to plant their foot and go and find space to run in. I thought they did a great job of that. I thought they did a great job on their combination blocks, getting up to the second level of the linebackers, and you just have to get to them. The backs have somebody to run off, as you see right there in Jamal Charles, who did a great job. Really, again, I keep going to it, but I saw it all day long. Sticking their foot in the ground, getting north and south. They're like, to me, they were like, they valued those yards. Do you have a chance to maybe reverse field and get a touchdown? You do sometimes, but they're like, take the 2 or 3 yards right now and we'll live to fight another day. You get second and medium or second and short. Now you've got some things you can do from an offensive side of the ball.
We also saw Steve Maneri on those highlights. He did a great job, and I watched the coach's tape. Now, remember, he played tackle, moved to tight end. He's skilled. He can catch the ball. But Maneri did a very good job. A lot of double tights in this game. The Chiefs would go strong side. They'd go weak side. But he, along with Moeaki, did an also very good job. That's 2 extra offensive linemen, essentially, when you run the ball the way the Chiefs did. To me, the key, and we've talked about this, is Tampa Bay, do they commit an 8th person and bring it up there and say, here it is? Because Baltimore really did not. They would show an 8th guy, but many times they'd pull him back, but they didn't commit, saying, here's 8 in the box, what are you going to do about it?
You know what, I don't understand that either, because conventional wisdom said you'd have to do that. The one thing that I thought hurt the Chiefs' running game was the backside defender coming down laterally. And that's the guy at the end of the line of scrimmage, away from where you're running, who oftentimes you leave dangled. When I say dangle, you leave him unblocked sometimes. That's just how you do it in the NFL sometimes when you've got more men defending than what you've got there to block at times. But they did a good job of making some plays. But Jamal Charles, he was close to really getting some long runs, and he had some anyhow, so it'll be interesting.
Tampa Bay's given up some big plays. They've allowed 25 20-plus yard plays. You see one here against the Cowboys. That's near the bottom of the league. And again, they've only played 4 weeks. So they've got one less week of data here. There's a misplayed ball here. Aqib Talib, the former KU star, is one of their corners. They've moved Barber to a safety position to elongate his great career. But they have been giving up some big passing plays. So if Tampa Bay does commit that 8th guy to the box and saying, we're going to have an unblocked guy here, not only the dangler, as you mentioned, but here's one more unblocked guy. If the Chiefs can get the ball downfield, they can do some serious damage on these guys.
Well, I would agree, and that's what it's a game of adjustments, Mitch, and that's what you've got to figure out. As you see things going on, you've got to decide, and as you see some guys get beat right there. You talked about Barber and you talked about Barron. Barron's got a lot of potential. He's a rookie out of Alabama, but he's still a rookie out of Alabama. And you've got Rondé, who has moved from corner to safety to lengthen his career, but the fact is that's not his natural position, and he is getting a little bit older, a little bit long in the tooth. I think that inexperience, both being too many years and maybe a rookie, is something that can play into the Chiefs' factor. They're physical, they like to come up and hit, and that can get them into trouble as well. It will be interesting. I think the Chiefs, I look to them to want to go in and establish the run again like they did this last week, and then from there, figure out what Baltimore is giving you. Are they cheating that guy up or are they not? And then you decide where to go from there.
Let's quickly go to the other side of the ball. We really haven't talked about the Chiefs' defense. It's Josh Freeman, Grandview, Missouri, played right here in town. There's been a Chiefs Kingdom guy on the opponent every week so far this season. It's been interesting. But Freeman now, the former K-State star, again, a hometown guy, and he has had an up-and-down career. Look at the 2010. That jumps off the screen at you. At 10-6, an outstanding year, excellent TD to INT ratio, 25 touchdowns to 6 picks. This year, protection issues. Gets smashed here by the Dallas Cowboys and coughs the ball up. So seriously, they've had some offensive line work. There's been some issues with situational football with Josh. You just wonder if they're going to try to run it. They got LeGarrette Blount, the big running back. They got Doug Martin, the rookie out of Boise State. But for Josh Freeman to play against his hometown team, what do you see? You
know what? First off, Josh Freeman at 6'6", 240. This is a guy, big, physical. You cannot outrun his arm. He can throw the ball down the field, and he will. You look at some of the people that he's thrown the ball to this year, in Mike Williams and Vincent Jackson. He's done a nice job with that at times. But in general, they've not been as successful as they need to be. To me, they don't have the running game to complement the passing game. You talked about the running back out of Boise, who's a rookie this year, and then LeGarrette Blount, who he's a rumbling, stumbling guy. He's not going to make a cut. He's just going straight forward. And you know what? Right now, to me, that plays into the hands of the Chiefs if you run him. And quite honestly, I don't think that David is, what is his name? I'm sorry, Doug Martin is performing to the ability that they saw in college right now. And that makes them one-dimensional in my terms, and that bodes well for a Chiefs offense or defense rather as well.
Mark Dominic, the GM of the Buccaneers, a local guy, went to the University of Kansas, so he works hard in scouting this area. Levante David, the former Nebraska star, is on this team. They also spent some money in the offseason. They went after Vincent Jackson, took him out of our division, took him there off the San Diego Chargers. And they've got some significant off-field moves. They spent money for Carl Nix. They stole him from a division opponent in New Orleans. We mentioned Doug Martin. And Livermore, Iowa native Dallas Clark, kind of the flex tight end on this team. So Tampa Bay did make some significant off-season moves, but they're trying to make a push because all of a sudden now they look up at Atlanta running away from everybody in that division. And so the time is urgent for the Buccaneers as well as the Chiefs in this game.
Well, again, and you talk about all those moves they made this year. I think they're still trying to find themselves, and they haven't as of yet, and nor do I want them to. But do you look at those right there, them at 1-3, not what they expected. They expected much, much more coming into this season. Now, I want to go back to what you talked about in terms of the Chiefs' defense and something you talked about as far as the offensive line for Tampa Bay. And the one mismatch that I think is on both sides, and I say one mismatch because I'm counting Justin Houston and Tamba Hali as one person right now. They complement each other greatly, something that we'll talk about here in a minute.
Yeah, we're going to get into more of that as Houston is #1 in the NFL in sack total since December the 4th of last year. How can the Chiefs win in Tampa Bay? It is the longest streak of any Chiefs opponent that the Chiefs haven't beaten Tampa Bay since 1993, Joe Montana's first game as a Chief. Kansas City's beaten all of the other teams in the league since then. How do they win this week against the Buccaneers? We'll talk about it when we come back.
I pull up to the game and all I smell is barbecue. I see everybody with their jerseys on, just out tailgating. Everybody's yelling, honking their horns in their cars, offering me barbecue on the way before the game. I mean, everybody's just friendly. I mean, it's just a wonderful city to play football in, man. Our fans are good in the stadium and out of the stadium. They just treat everybody with respect, and you gotta love that. This city is built like a family. This is a great place to be, and I love it.
Women 40 years and older.
84.3%.
More women. Women 40 years and older are getting mammograms, which can save their lives.
84.3%. That is the average survival rate for Kansas and Missouri.
More women are battling this disease, and the survival rate is rising.
Help continue the trend. Join the Kansas City Chiefs, Hy-Vee, and the University of Kansas Cancer Center and schedule a screening today. It can save your life.
Across the 40, Charles is gonna go! See you later!
If you're a Chiefs fan, you know 3 things matter. 1, being at Arrowhead. 2, rocking your red on Sunday. And 3, tailgating! This fall, I'll be out and about around Arrowhead Stadium with the 65 TPT crew to show the world what tailgating is about. Let me know through Twitter or Facebook why our cameras should come to your tailgate. If you're chosen, your tailgate will be featured on KCChiefs.com so the world can party with you. But remember, you have to make room for one more on the menu.
Chiefs tailgating, baby!
Being 50 years in the organization and to be first class like the Kansas City Chiefs are, it's just an honor and a privilege to even come here and be a part of it. There's so many great players that have come from the Kansas City Chiefs. Hopefully one day my name of people I play with here at the Kansas City Chiefs, you can mention with those Buck Buchanan, Bobby Bells, Willie Lanier, those guys. It's just an honor to be on the same field as those guys.
You get chills seeing those highlights of the great linebackers like Willie Lanier, the late Derek Thomas. But Kansas City's got 2 now. You alluded to it with bookends as Kansas City. How do you beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and win on the road and beat Tampa Bay? Again, I know this has gone viral. At 4 in the morning, I put it on Twitter. Couldn't sleep. So I put it out there. But now people are responding. Really, is that true? Yes. Kansas City has not beaten Tampa Bay since 1993. They have beaten all of the other teams in the league at least once, all of them, except the Buccaneers. So how do you win this week? I want to ask you about Justin Houston on one side, Tamba Hali on the other, because Tampa Bay's got some big decisions to make.
Well, they do. And with Houston having 6 sacks, Hali having 2 sacks, they're doing a great job getting pressure on the QB. But something that I saw this week is what we call coverage sacks, in terms of defense is going hard, but they're not getting to the QB right away. But the QB had nowhere to throw the ball, did Flacco. And with that, he had to sit back there. Now the defense, you see that great interception by Flowers. The defense, when you can play like that, when you can get coverage sacks, that means you've got some good things going on in the back end. But again, that pressure up front is huge, because in some way, shape, or form, they cannot single both Houston and Tamba Hali. They have to double one, if not both. And maybe they chip them, I don't know. But they've got to do something, because if they don't, it will be a long day for the QB for Tampa Bay. Josh will not be happy.
No, and here's the other thing I saw on tape that was very encouraging. The Chiefs are beat up on the defensive line. Dontari Poe had easily his best game in his rookie season. He was really good in the Baltimore game. Tyson Jackson playing the 2-gap, doing a good job. The guys up front, if Ropati Patoa gets back, now all of a sudden you've got pressure and up the middle. The quarterback vision has changed in the last 3 games. Ever since that end of the New Orleans game, the quarterback many times is not having a clear vision in this funnel in front of him, because they're getting enough middle pressure and just turn those guys loose on the outside.
You make a good point. And the other one that we forgot to mention is number 97, Allen Bailey. Made his first start as a true defensive end. I thought he did a good job as well. But you talk about it. When you collapse the integrity of the pocket, the QBs have a hard time stepping up. And if they can't step up, now they start to throw off their back leg. They can't get as much velocity on the ball. They can't be as accurate. When you've got the guys coming off the edge, and now they don't have to worry about the QB stepping up and them going around them, that makes a big difference as well.
Okay, the big number, turnover margin, we all know that. That's obvious. What may not be quite as obvious is starting fast in this game on defense. We mentioned it last week, but Kansas City had allowed 3 touchdowns on first offensive possessions by opponents in 4 weeks. Not last week. It was huge. The Chiefs started fast in this game defensively and carried it all the way through for 60 minutes. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, even though they're 1-3, are second in the NFL, Kendall, in scoring on their first possession. They have 17 first possession points in 4 weeks. What about Kansas City starting fast on defense?
Well, Mitch, you talk about it all the time, but it's even more important on the road, because when the offensive team at home starts and they get a touchdown, you get that crazy crowd going. And in Tampa, they've got it going pretty good. It can get loud there. So if you can stop them and get them off the field, it deflates the crowd a little bit, and that's what you want, because as the Chiefs' offense comes onto the field, it's going to be loud if they're sitting there dealing with the fact that they're down 3-0 or 7-0 and the crowd's having a party right now. So if you can deflate them a little bit early, that just makes it a little bit easier for the offense to operate. And again, you hate to play from behind. You want to get a chance. That's what we're looking for. The Chiefs have to play from ahead and put some pressure on the other team.
They've not played from ahead all season. They've not led with the clock running yet. We all know that stat. That could change a lot this week. All right. And we see here the pressure on Josh Freeman. He has struggled this year. At times, the numbers have not been great. Now let's flip it to the other side. The Chiefs, let's say, and we're under the assumption Brady Quinn is going to have to quarterback this week. We're also under the assumption Kansas City, one of the best running teams in the league, is going to try to run the ball on Tampa, even if they throw and commit an 8th man to the box. Tampa has only allowed 2 20-plus runs in 4 weeks so far this season. What about the offensive approach in beating Tampa this week?
Well, you know what, I talked about it earlier. Just because a team's good at stopping the run doesn't mean that you don't run the ball if that's your strength. So I think the Chiefs will still continue to do that. Yeah, we are going under the assumption that Brady will be starting this week. We don't know how that's going to go completely, but the sample size we saw last game was 3 for 3. That's a good thing. The big thing I like is the fact that Tampa Bay, quite honestly, they're just like us. They don't know what to expect. They've got to prepare for a lot. That's a good thing. I think Brady does bring some things to the table as far as his feet. If it's not there, tuck it and run it and get 5 or 7 yards. There's nothing wrong with that. It will be interesting in terms of how they approach things. I certainly think misdirection with the boots and things of that nature could be something that could play in this week as well.
Again, you see some big plays by the Cowboys and Giants against them. The Bucs have allowed 25 20-plus yard passing plays. That's near the bottom of the league. They're also last in opponent first down passing yards. So the Chiefs want to run the ball, but this might be an opportunity to also hit the Buccaneers at a deep level. Defensively, you see they're giving up 23 points a game, a chunk of yards. They have only 8 sacks, 24th in the league, but this is an aggressive bunch up front defensively.
You're right, and they are a very aggressive bunch. And when I watched the film this morning, what I saw was the fact that you've got those guys getting up the field, sometimes to their own detriment because they've got their head down, they're plowing forward. Sometimes it helps them out, but for the most part, I think they're so intent on stopping the run and getting up there and being physical that, again, that 5-yard to 13-yard window back there, if you decide to throw the ball with the crossing routes, the things of that nature, maybe your comebacks, that has a chance to work as well.
More to the story, win the turnover margin, stop the bleeding on the turnover margin being minus, and also build off all the positives to the Baltimore game and flip the season going into the bye week and trying to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For Kendall Gammon, 15-year veteran of the league, I'm Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs. Thanks for joining us on this edition of Chiefs Live.